2019 Aston Martin Vantage, we slide behind the wheel of a prototype. For probably the first time, I'm happy that the English climate is conveying as foreseen. Shakespeare's home province of Warwickshire is secured with a chill greyness, what his bardness once portrayed as infertile winter, with his fierce nipping cool, and the streets are sodden and oily. This is the ideal area to answer a portion of the more noteworthy inquiries we have about the new Aston Martin Vantage in front of its formal dispatch in the not-so-distant future. As you'd anticipate from James Bond's occasionally most loved auto organization, the procedures are exceptionally shroud and blade. In spite of the fact that we've just observed what the completed Vantage looks like and experienced it from the traveler situated in solidified Sweden, our first drive is in a model that wears an intentionally revolting yellow and dark mask and conveys no Aston Martin marking, despite the fact that it has the logo of tire provider Pirelli writ extensive on its entryways. I'm additionally joined by Matt Becker, Aston's main vehicle properties design and a man who find out about tuning sports autos than for all intents and purposes any other individual on the planet. His past gig was as Lotus taking care of manager. This certainly isn't a trial of anything other than the driving background. Outer styling is adequately covered up by the hallucinogenic zebra wrap, and the inside bears the scars of an existence lived hard. Improvement designs frequently appear to respect testing the toughness of trim and fittings as a major aspect of the activity. Contrasted with the greater DB11, the seating position feels lower, and despite the fact that there is a decent scope of modification, being situated nearer to the windshield implies the Fat column gobbles up more front quarter perceivability. The two autos share a similar controlling haggle part advanced instrument group. However, the Vantage's switchgear and apparatus choice catches are bunched to bring down on the middle comfort. Vantage points. From the minute the motor begins, it's unmistakable the Vantage is an alternate mammoth. It shares the DB11's AMG-sourced twin-turbo 4.0-liter V8. The DB11 is likewise accessible with the twin-turbo V12, yet gets a substantially darker soundtrack. Our test auto was breathing out through what will be a discretionary game fumes, yet notwithstanding leaving Aston's new Wellsbourne designing focus at an aware pace it sounded both louder and angrier than whatever else fitted with this motor, beside a Mercedes-AMG GTR, that is. Becker says the fumes note has been tuned to give more higher frequencies, as they are more qualified to the character of the auto. There are some stunningly uproarious pops and blasts while lifting off the throttle, as well. The Model ZF 8-speed programmed gearbox will be the main transmission decision at dispatch, despite the fact that a 7-speed manual will take after. The transaxle is raise-mounted to help streamline the Vantage's weight dispersion, cited as 50 hours 50 minutes front to raise, however controls the back wheels through a progressed electronically controlled restricted slip differential, something the DB11 doesn't get in either 8 or 12-barrel frame. A more energetic drive. Indeed, even at low speeds the Vantage feels plainly not the same as the DB11. While the directing rack and proportion are indistinguishable, the Vantage's wheelbase is 4 inches shorter, making the front end discernibly more responsive. The suspension feels firmer, as well. The Vantage has punchier skeleton modes, with the guiding wheel-mounted control cycling among Sport, Sport Plus, and Track, while the DB11 has GT, Sport, and Sport Plus. Becker says the back suspension's subframe is inflexibly mounted to the fortified aluminum body, making a stiffer, however louder, structure than the DB11's bushing disconnected subframe. Game mode still feels acceptably agreeable over a portion of the harsh cut street surfaces we take toward the Fossway. And also being one of the most seasoned streets in Europe, initially worked by the Roman Empire to make it less demanding to placate defiant Celts and Angles almost 2,000 years back, the Fossway is the most loved of the UK's frame engineers because of its low activity levels, all around the located straights, precarious cambers, and regularly medieval surfaces. Other than different distance, we see a few camouflaged models from Jaguar Land Rovers close by Gaydon designing base being hustled along. It's nothing unexpected that the Vantage is brisk. The AMG V8 has plentiful wicked good torque, yet like numerous a genuine pure blood, it's most joyful while being ramped by the whip, pulling progressively unequivocally as it surrounds the 7,000 revolution per minute redline. As we noted with the DB11 V8, the marriage between the motor and the ZF Auto, which AMG doesn't use in its own particular models, is an especially cheerful one, conveying shifts that vibe subjectively as snappy as those of a double grasp programmed in the powertrain's more forceful modes. Becker concedes that in track mode upshifts are really impeded partially finished Sport Plus to give a greater torque knock and a louder fume split. The 295/35 R20 raised tires find copious grasp in the elusive conditions, and the body disregards surface blemishes. Up until this point, so Aston, however, turning onto littler and more tightly streets uncovers what the Vantage is better than average at. The front end remains reliable and informative as speed increments, and now the diff at the back likewise gets an opportunity to demonstrate how shrewd it is. Becker says that it can create up to 1,845 pounds-to-foot of locking power immediately, substantially more than a regular mechanical restricted slip differential. This serves to both boost hold and to vector torque over the back pivot. The outcome is exceptional footing in the oily conditions yet without the low-speed understeer that forceful LSTs regularly incite. It feels agile and secure yet additionally throttle steerable to an amazing degree, even with the soundness control exchanged completely on, and it's boisterous without being terrifying with it turned off. Thusly, the new Vantage is an auto equipped for doing apparently opposing things. That the manual gearbox rendition will have a less progressed mechanical differential is probably going to constrain its allure significantly more distant than the partiality that purchasers appear to have against autos with grip pedals. Different impressions are essentially passing. In appraisal terms, this is a some tea as opposed to a full English breakfast. The Vantage's brake pedal has a decent firm weight yet little travel, hindrance being down to weight as opposed to development. Becker says that the Porsche 911 GT3 was the motivation for the pedal feel. The seats feel great following an hour in the driver's seat, in spite of the fact that the cockpit is beginning to feel tight instead of comfortable when we return to Wellsbourne. Be that as it may, generally speaking, the signs are great without a doubt.